It's time once again for the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for joining us, along with Heidi Nelson from the City of Maple Grove, the City Administrator. Welcome once again, Heidi. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Dave.
You are welcome. We have the virtual program going today for you, and we're going to talk about the meeting on March 15th. There was a work session before the meeting, and then about an hour 15 council meeting. And of course, many things happening in the City of Maple Grove. We'll bring you that update as well. Heidi, first to the work session. The topic was the community center, and we've talked about this a few times. Tell us a little bit more of what was discussed at the work session and what came out of it.
Yeah, so we are in the process of what's called pre-design, and this is really what's driving this is the state bonding process. So early summer, like at the end of May, we will be needing to submit for the formal state bonding process and need to put some documents together for what's called pre-design, which really kind of defines the main components of the project. So we wanted to check in with the council and get a better understanding of what they want to see as kind of those additions to the community center. So the few things that we were focused on was talking about, a third sheet of ice, potential for some performing arts space, black box type small theater, as well as really looking at the addition of space for curling. So looking at all of those different things. And then also, Lifetime Fitness, of course, is a partner of ours, and we were in negotiations with them for their space, and that's kind of been put on the shelf. So I think, the direction last night was to kind of proceed with a plan that recognizes that Lifetime may be a few years out before they know what their next moves are going to be, but allows us to continue to plan for a project. So got some feedback from the council last night, and the park board was part of this as well. And then that'll come back probably in April with a little bit more information on cost and how parking might figure into these additional uses.
Very good. We will keep residents up to date on that progress. Now to the meeting from the 15th, again, about an hour and 15 minutes long. Nothing pulled from the consent agenda. There was one item under the special business, the open forum, a resident of the City of Maple Grove talking about some zoning. Tell us a little bit more about that discussion.
Yeah, so this is kind of a code enforcement dispute, if you will, between two property owners that we've been dealing with for some time at a staff level of the city. And oftentimes these become, bigger issues, and a lot of frustration builds between two neighbors about how property is maintained. And so the one property owner came to kind of express some concern, and we'll certainly continue to work with these property owners here. And there's a couple things in the code that council asked us to take a quick look at, but kind of probably an ongoing issue that we'll just continue to work to try to resolve.
One public hearing on the 15th, and that relates to a project we've talked quite a bit about recently, Avery Park. What is this next step of the process that needs to be gone through?
Yeah, so this again is that Avery Park housing project development up off of Jefferson Highway, just north of downtown Osseo. So this was a public hearing for the street and utility improvements associated with that project. So that went forward, and so likely that project will start having some action out there this summer.
Keep an eye on that part of the town. Community development items, a few that we have talked about that said we're coming up and working through the Planning Commission. First is the Reserve Arbor Lakes building number 4. This will complete that property. What are they planning for?
Yeah, so this is the 4th building for the Reserve Arbor Lakes. And if folks have been by there, you note that there's 2 buildings that are up and completed and pretty much fully leased. And then there's a 3rd building that's currently under construction that will be completed in about August. And then their intention with the approval last night of this 4th building is to start this construction in August, kind of on the tail end of when that 3rd building is completed. And it's about a 20-month construction phase. So, about a year and a half before those new units would be available. So all in, when these 4 buildings are completed, it's about 695 units. And really that construction is, really lasted over for about 4 years once things are complete. But this project continues to do well. They changed the orientation of this one a little bit. So there'll be underground parking and then kind of a deck of parking, and then the units will be above that. So this one did get approval last night. So we'll likely see some activity on that north side of that site come late summer.
Another project that is moving ahead is Boston Scientific. Tell us about this mentioned before the council and what they're looking for adding an additional building.
Yeah, so this is Boston Scientific is adding another building to their site. It'll be just kind of on the far north end of the site, just due west of that existing building that's there. This is really adding more production space for Boston Scientific. They're going to be shifting some things around in their existing buildings. And this building will be connected by Skyway. So it really becomes an integral part of the campus. A lot of discussion around traffic and parking. They are going to be making some changes to the parking lots to increase the number of parking stalls that they have on site. Of course, they do a lot of shift work when it comes to their production. So they're kind of able to manage that flow in and out of the parking lot. But we did spend, additional time with them on kind of the traffic impacts, parking impacts, that kind of a thing. They're not adding additional jobs initially with this. They're really more moving some things around internally. And, with the pandemic, many of their, management level staff, non-production staff are working from home, and they do anticipate maintaining some of that flexibility going into the future for those staff. So that parking in that way as well. So good to see this expansion here of the medtech industry in Maple Grove, and good to see this for Boston Scientific. So we're excited about this one. Probably some activity on this one later this summer as well.
Very good. Third item under community development was the Evanswood PDU concept stage plan. And this was an item that was tabled in the past. What was the discussion last night and the final result?
Yeah, so we brought this back. The developer really wanted to have an opportunity to talk with the council and get some feedback in terms of their concerns. And it really centered around the level of density, the size of the lots, that kind of a thing up in that northwest quadrant. I think the council's vision was a little bit more a traditional single family type neighborhood, with the more higher density areas being closer down to 610 and 94 areas where there might be some commercial. And this initial proposal by the developer had much more density, further to the north, up by the Hindu temple. So the developer was able to, talk with the council, get some additional feedback. The council, of course, we're still trying to work out the final outcomes of the housing study, and we might be looking at some changes on the apartment townhome front there. And so the council wanted to make sure that discussion was complete before making final, decisions about this concept plan. So looks like we're going to come back with the housing study detail April 19th, and then likely we'll need an extension on this one. Our 120 days goes to about April 28th. Okay. So we'd need the developer probably to give us another 30 days post that end of April date to move through that. And they'll likely come back with some revised plans. So just a good opportunity to have a check-in and get some direct feedback from the council to the developer.
More information to come as that moves ahead in the next couple months. Now report on upcoming community and economic development items. They have a planning commission meeting coming up on the 29th of March, and it looks like a rather full agenda. What's coming up?
Yeah, March 29th, a 6,000 square foot medical office building up at the Grove on one of the outlots. Shake Shack at the shops is coming back to add a drive-through. A lot of businesses are wanting to have that drive-through service today. And then they have a 7-lot subdivision out kind of in the southwest corner of the city, in the Nottingham Parkway area.
And then the Main Street planning, we've been talking about this as it's moved through the process. Where are we now, and what will be coming up in the next discussion at the Planning Commission?
Yeah, so we took the feedback that we got at the work session with the Planning Commission, City Council, have updated those plans, and those will be coming back for consideration. And we're looking at costing of some of those improvements that we're looking to see out there. And of course, we have to coordinate this with our property owners. Some of those things in the right of way are their responsibility as well. So a lot of stakeholders here to coordinate with, but we'll likely see those plans coming back in front of the council in the coming month or so. And then really looking at, defining a project for probably later this summer after Maple Grove Days timeframe.
And a final note from community development, a date to mark on your calendar, that is April 22nd. What is happening on that date?
Yeah, so this will be the 8th annual community forum on race. And so it'll be a virtual event this year. And it'll really be kind of focused on giving, providing a safe place for conversation during the time of the Chauvin trial, and providing that opportunity for members of the community. So stay tuned for more information about how you can register for that event. Likely some breakout rooms in that if you participated in this last one last fall, similar to that kind of a concept, but we'll get that information out on social media and our website as well.
Great. And Public Works Engineering, a little update here. And as you might guess, I-94 is a big part of this topic discussion, and some signs appearing and the snow having a little impact. What do we know about that roadway?
Yeah, so work was planned, and I think we'll see how things go here.
Right.
I'm hoping for sunshine today and warmer temperatures after that snow to clear things away. But they are planning to get going on some road construction work out on I-94 in the coming weeks here, and potentially even this week, depending on the impacts of the snow yesterday. But overnight, you're going to see some closures out on 94, intermittent closures, like, well, they'll close it down for 15 minutes, kind of middle of the night type work, where they're going to be setting kind of those bridge girders for the new Dayton Parkway interchange. And so, they come in, close the highway down, set that, and then, open the traffic back up, and then do the next one, kind of a thing. So that's going to be a big impact overnight out there on the corridor. And then we'll end of the month, looking more towards March 29th, we're going to be looking, to shift that traffic back. Think about how it was last summer where everything was shifted to one side. So now we're going to be shifting back to the other side to do that pavement work. So a lot of moving around out there. Information available on our website, social media, that kind of a thing. Of course, the MnDOT website as well, to kind of understand when some of those lane shifts will be. And I know there's going to be kind of a reduction down to one lane in certain areas as those transitions are made. So likely some high volume out there this summer, as people are traveling. So good to pay attention to what's going on the corridor as we start to get back into the construction season.
Yes, and that website again, maplegrovemn.gov, if you want to find out more about that project, or again, the city's Facebook page as it moves along. Couple other topics in Public Works to talk about: water, one above ground and one below ground. What is happening?
Yeah, so we're getting ready for the painting of the Upland Lane water tower up there, kind of just south of the hospital, if you're familiar with that area by Park Nicollet. So you'll see some activity up there. They're removing the cellular equipment, and they put it on kind of a temporary tower while that painting takes place. And so you're seeing some of that work happen right now. Likely that painting will, as soon as the weather moderates here and we get temps back up, which looks like next week is coming again, they'll get started on some of that, prep for that painting work. And the goal is to really have that project done kind of by July, August, when we get into more of the peak season for water usage. So a lot of activity around there. And then we continue in our work in maintaining the sanitary sewer system with lining some of those lines, televising them, and lining some of those sanitary sewer lines as well.
A lot of fancy work going on in the Public Works area. Finally, you had a few updates, reminders on some dates coming up. First, a work session. What is the next work session for the council?
Yeah, so on March 25th, we're going to have a work session to provide a report out on the police department workplace assessment that has been ongoing since pretty much the first of the year. So that'll be March 25th at 6 p.m. Just as a reminder to folks, we do have April 5th, we have the street maintenance hearings for this year's road maintenance projects. Just want to remind people that engineering staff is available to answer any questions that you might have prior to that hearing. So we really encourage people to reach out if they have questions or concerns. And then of course we have our Board of Appeal meetings coming up April 8th and the 22nd. And those, again, assessing staff is available to, respond to any questions prior to that hearing time. Valuation notices did start getting mailed out in the community as of last Friday. So you'll start to see that. So we have kind of two things going. You get a tax statement for this year, and then you'll also see your valuation notice, which really deals with taxes for next year. And this is the time for those Board of Appeal meetings where you want to, if you have concerns about the valuation that's assigned to your property, have that interaction with the assessing staff. And then there's always the opportunity to come to Board of Appeal with the City Council acting in that capacity. So some upcoming dates for spring activity.
And that wraps up the meeting from the 15th, again, about an hour and 15 minutes. Next meeting is on April 5th. We'll give you more information about that in the next few minutes. But first, let's go to some of the other things happening around the city. And the first is Transit Driver Appreciation Day, a chance to say thank you. How does this work?
Yeah, so Thursday, March 18th is Transit Driver Appreciation Day with Maple Grove Transit and other transit operators across the country. Maple Grove Transit contracts with Metro Transit for its express bus driver service drivers, and then Midwest Paratransit service for its My Ride drivers. So just an opportunity to say thank you to those folks that get us here and there. And their job has not been necessarily easy, of course, this past year, dealing with transit during COVID times, but just good to provide that recognition to those folks that work in those roles.
And speaking of My Ride, some extra work that they're doing right now with Rise to Vaccines. How can residents get involved in this?
Yeah, so Maple Grove Transit is offering free rides on the My Ride service to and from COVID-19 vaccinations. And there's certain conditions that it has to meet. So you might want to check out the My Ride website or give a call over to the phone reservation line and just make sure that you meet the qualifications. But just really want to encourage people, if they, are trying to get out to get a vaccination, this is a great way to get there free of charge.
This is always a busy time of the year in the city for hiring people to do some outside work and summer work. What are the current jobs that are open and how can people apply?
Yeah, so we do have one full-time regular park keeper position open right now, and those applications are accepted through March 31st. And then, of course, we have a number of seasonal positions in Public Works and Parks and Recreation that we're looking to fill. And so lots of job opportunities with the city right now.
Let's move on to the farmers market, the indoor variety, and they have got a special day to get you out and shopping. What is coming up on March 21st?
Yeah, so we're going to be celebrating the first day of spring at the Indoor Farmers Market, Sunday, March 21st. And of course, this is over at the space at the shops that we lease, the Maple Grove Park and Rec Studio. And the hours are 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And that's again on a Sunday. And there's over 20 vendors that are committed to this indoor market. And then we'll have one more indoor market Sunday, April 18th. And then we do plan to transition back to those outdoor markets for the summer, starting in mid-May, and we'll go back to that Thursday late afternoon timeframe.
That sounds good. Getting back outside. Great need for blood right now, and the city is helping out with a blood drive. Give us those details of when that's coming up.
Yeah, so we do have an American Red Cross blood drive taking place at the Maple Grove Community Center on April 2nd, and the hours are 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You can visit crossblood.org to make an appointment. And then we also have future dates scheduled for April 14th and April 30th. And those are more afternoon hours from 1 to 7. So we just encourage people to get out and donate if they can, and a really convenient location at the community center.
Very good. Let's keep people active in the city. A couple of ways to do that. First is through youth sports. Now is the time, I understand, Heidi, for people to get signed up.
Yeah, so registration is open until March 26th for youth athletics, including cub ball, softball, soccer. These are really popular activities in the spring, so we really encourage people to take a look. That Park and Rec activity guide is out, and then, of course, registration available on the city website.
And the other way to stay active, or another way, is the community center. And again, remind us of some of the COVID protocols and how people can reserve spaces and reserve time to come in.
Yeah, so, we, the governor had some announcements last week that changed some of the numbers about, banquet meeting space and events, those kinds of things. So we continue to look at those and make some tweaks to our operations, but we still do need reservations in advance for a few things. So the indoor playground, swimming pools, the gym, pickleball, the ice arena, those kinds of things. So check out our website if you plan to come in, because we do use the sign up as a way to kind of make sure we're keeping control over the numbers in the space. And so just plan ahead for your visit and visit the website to sign up.
Very good. Property tax statements. We talked about taxes a little bit earlier. Let's remind people once again, the statements they're seeing right now are for what?
Yeah, so residents should receive their property tax statement from Hennepin County in the mail. And then the first half of the 2021 property taxes are due on May 17th. Many of our residential, homeowners have that incorporated into their mortgage payments. So might not be, tracking towards that May 17th date, but for others, that date is important. And then we also have property owners will receive their 2021 valuation notices this month. They started to be mailed out last Friday. And again, that's in preparation for this Board of Appeal process coming up in April.
Let's talk about other ways to find out what's going on in the city, and that is through the spring newsletter. Where can we find this, and what is it packed full of this time around?
Yeah, so the spring newsletter is available for viewing online, and it should be, it was mailed to all homes and
Okay.
businesses. Lots of upcoming events, reminders for residents, and a lot of things that, we're starting to plan for summer events, those kinds of things. So some dates in there. A lot of the details are still, TBD in terms of
Right.
monitoring, what we can do in terms of numbers, but good information in there in that spring newsletter.
Here's something that people often look forward to in spring, but unfortunately this year, out of the control of the city, it has to be postponed. What is happening with the tree sale?
Yeah, so the city's annual tree sale is being rescheduled to the fall. We're just having some issues with inventory and selection on trees, inventory being very low. And then, we'll move that to the fall, but fall is still a great time to plant trees. And plans are made for the fall event, and they'll be shared on the various communications as we get closer to that date.
And last item to touch on, we've talked about it a few times, the Code Red system. Give us a quick reminder of what that system is and why it's important for residents to sign up and get involved.
Yeah, so this is the Maple Grove Code Red mass notification system, and there's a number of communities around us that work with Code Red as well. Corcoran, New Hope, so you might see notifications from those communities as well. But this is really an opportunity for us to get information out to the community on emergency notifications, and there's really 3 tiers that you can choose from. It's that emergency notifications, general alerts, and then community information. So kind of get to decide, what level of notification you want to see. And this is free to residents. It's an app that lives on your phone. And you can choose how you want to get those messages, whether you want them in text message or email, and those get sent directly to your phone.
And again, the city's website, a great place to go to find out more information about that and get that sign up process done. That is it for our report today. Again, the next council meeting as we leave you is coming up on April 5th, and the city's website, maplegrovemn.gov. We mentioned that quite a few times today. If you have questions about some of the topics we touched on, or like to get some dates of those things that are coming up, go to the city's website. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks once again for joining us on the Maple Grove City Report. Have a great day.